We're gonna do a power poll. Haven't done this in a couple weeks. We're heading into December. I broke everybody down from 30 to 1 in some categories. We're gonna rip through it. I'm gonna make some jokes. I'm gonna try to do this in 20 minutes or less. We'll see if I can pull it off. First section is the dregs. And what's crazy is we have 8 teams in this bottom category from 30 to 23. The bottom 8 teams, they all have a net rating of -7 or worse. We're going back to the 80s. When I was growing up, we always had like 7, 8 crap teams at all times. It feels like we're back to that. Number 30, Detroit. They've lost 16 straight. We'll get back to them in a second. 29, San Antonio. 28, Washington. Those 3 teams combined have 8 wins. Number 27, Memphis. I remember when Chris Vernon said, "No, we'll be fine. Ja's going to come back. We'll be like 13 and 12. No, right now you're 4 and 13. And Ja still has 8 games to go. Chicago is at number 26. They won tonight in overtime against Milwaukee. We'll get back to them in 1 second. Portland 25, Utah 24, and then Charlotte at 23. They're 6 and 11. And yet they have a net rating of -8. So going backwards, 2 teams I wanted to mention. Chicago, who I watched when they played the Celtics the other night, and it was one of the most dispiriting efforts I've ever seen. Their coach got mad that the Celtics did hack a drum, and he should have been mad at his team. So they play Milwaukee tonight. They don't have Zach LaVine. They don't have DeRozan. And they end up having 30-plus assists. They have this emotional win in overtime. And to me, that's about a 15-foot red flag that maybe you should be making some moves. The problem is they paid LaVine, and it was like $200 million plus. And it was one of those things. It was like the Wizards with Bradley Beal, where you had this asset, you want to keep it, but you don't really want it either, right? It's like you rent this house and they kept a couch in the living room that you don't like, but it's like, it's a free couch. And you just hate the couch the entire time you're in the house. I don't know what they do with LaVine. I mentioned this on Tuesday's pod. I went through all the teams. As you know, I'm the Picasso of the trade machine. I went through everybody trying to figure out who would want Zach LaVine. Couldn't come up with it. Who wants him for that kind of money? He doesn't play defense. His team plays better when he's not out there. They might be stuck with him. But I wonder when this trend's going to end of the team going, we don't want to lose him. And all of a sudden they're $200 million in the hole with somebody they don't want. The other team here, Charlotte at number 23, who I kind of mind their starting 5 when Hayward, now he could go down at any time, but Hayward with Bridges, with LaMelo Ball and Rozier, Mark Williams, like they're one of those teams when you're watching them, you're going, wait, is this an NBA team? Like a decent NBA team? And I was wondering is this the Zach LaVine home? And what would that trade look like? Because they have Hayward on expiring. And could it be Hayward and Rozier, who was good tonight, again for LaVine, and then you take Lonzo Ball back, even though he's injured, you could reunite the Ball brothers, hope that he comes back in a year. No picks at all. So Charlotte would basically just be giving up Hayward's expiring and Rozier, who's a really solid rotation guy. And you get LaVine, you have to take his money back, and Lonzo is hurt. And I was trying to figure out who wouldn't do this. And I'm at a stalemate. I don't know who says no faster. I think it's a no from both sides, but I do think there's meetings on both ends. But that's where LaVine's value is, I think, at this point. It's an expiring contract and a rotation guy, and you might even have to take another contract off their team. All right, that's our bottom 8. Next category, the trade machine mercenaries. I got 3 teams here. Brooklyn's 9 and 9. They lost tonight. Toronto's 9 and 10. And Atlanta is 8 and 9. They're the 20th team for me. These are teams where I don't mind their rosters. When you watch them, they're fine. They're okay. Like Brooklyn looked pretty good tonight. Toronto, you watch them. They're always hanging in games. You don't mind them. Atlanta, they're fun. They're 5th in offense for net rating. And yet something's missing. And you don't even really know what the trade is. Like if you're Atlanta, what's the trade? You're going to trade like Trae Young? What are you going to get for him? Who wants Trae Young? Who wants to pay the price for Trae Young? You're kind of stuck in the vicinity of the team you have already. So basically you just have to hope they're going to do better. Jalen Johnson got hurt for them, which was really tough because he was probably the 3rd best guy on the team. Toronto is a team that I think actually should make a move. And then Brooklyn's in a weird spot because they don't have their pick. It's going to Houston. So you don't want to go backwards because you're going to lose your pick anyway. You have some assets with Phoenix first and 25 and 27 and a couple other picks. And I don't really know what they do. They're in no man's land. They were banking on Ben Simmons, which you kind of get what you deserve if that he's already hurt. That's happening. So they're going to tread water, and it seems like they're one of those teams that's kind of waiting for somebody to get disenchanted with an asset. Maybe it's Zach LaVine. Toronto is the team I want to talk about, though, because it's a team that hasn't made sense for a couple years. It's a team that they don't get to the line and they don't make threes, which is kind of death in 2024 basketball. They're in the bottom 5 in both. And they have Siakam, who's a free agent, whose 3-point shooting has dropped from 34 to 32 to 20% this year. 20%. He used to be like, I remember in the Kawhi season, you felt like he would actually make a three. And now, who knows? But I still feel like he's an asset. And I was trying to think, what's a good Siakam trade? This is why I'm the trade machine legend. Golden State. Wiggins and Kuminga for Siakam. Who says no? Wiggins, terrible season. Really, since last year when he disappeared for 6-8 weeks, we still don't know what happened. This year he showed up out of shape, and he was terrible for a month solid and really, really hurt them. Stopped rebounding. Finally had a good game this week, but he's Canadian. Kuminga, it's year 3 for him. I should know by year 3, do you have a chance of being somebody yet? With him, he clearly needs a new team. And then Siakam, take a flyer on him if you're the Warriors, gives you a little more size, changes your team a little bit, gets you out of this Wiggins situation. Thank you, Wiggins. Thank you for the 2022 finals. We're going to have to agree to disagree on what happened the last year or so, but now you're going to be in Canada. Good luck. And they finally give up on the Kuminga thing, which I think they have to. And you get Siakam, you take a flyer for him, you still have his cap figure, you got sign and trade this summer, and he helps them. I kind of like it. Plus, Kuminga's from the Congo, Masai's whole history with that. Like, it's just a trade that makes sense in a whole bunch of different ways. A nice 2-for-1. Toronto shakes it up a little. They get an asset in Kuminga. Maybe they can rejuvenate Wiggins. That's my idea. Next group, the past performance all-stars. We just mentioned Golden State. They're 19 for me right now. Brutal. This sums it up. Their net rating is 0.0. That's Golden State in a nutshell. Clippers 8 and 9 playing. These two teams are playing each other right now as I'm doing the power poll. So who knows who's going to win? But the Clippers are 8 and 9 as I'm doing this, and that's with Kawhi and Paul George not missing any games. We talked about them on Tuesday. I don't really want to talk about the Clippers anymore. I'm not taking them seriously. I don't really want to go see them play. It's a weird situation. I've had season tickets for 20 years, and they've had really bad teams that I didn't mind go seeing. Like there was a year with Zach Randolph and Baron Davis, and it was just an absolute mess. It was like a parody of an NBA team. I had a great time going. I really enjoyed seeing a weird bad basketball team, because at least that was something. This Clippers team, just watching the stoic demeanor, and whoever gets the ball over midcourt gets to shoot, and James Harden just once a week seems to care. I just can't do it. I don't know how many games I'm going to go to this year. My Clippers tickets, they might end up, unless Mike Tolan, the guy I shared tickets with, unless he's taking them, they might end up on some ticket sites. Might be happening. Don't enjoy that team. Went to the Denver game Monday night. Bad times. Not a fun team to go see. All right, next category. This is fun. The wild cards. Number 17, Houston. I don't love that they're winless on the road. Not a good sign. It's now December. Maybe get a road win. Number 16, Cleveland. Still don't love the Garland-Mitchell combo and the Mobley-Allen combo. And this does not feel like a finished team to me, but that's not what's going to change first. The coach is going to change. The JB Bickerstaff thing. They're 10 and 9. They have a minus net rating. When you watch them, just something seems off. They just don't seem crisp. They don't seem polished. And he would be a candidate for me for first coach, maybe to not have his job at some point. And I don't even know what they do, but they need to do something. Something's off with the mix. And I can't get a handle on it, but I've watched enough that something just doesn't sniff right with that team. Number 15, Dallas. Don't love the defense at all. Hard to take them seriously as a competitor in a 2-week playoff series. any game, like Luka can get hot, have his 42, 14, or 11, or Kyrie can have the 30-point game. But for the most part, I just don't see them with the current roster being able to get stops. So they seem like either a playing team or a round one and out team. But we'll see. Maybe Lively can blossom for them. Cuban, by the way, Cuban was on my HBO show in 2016. He was somebody that I never, ever in a million years thought would sell even a piece of the steak. So I'm still waiting to hear more from this story. This, to me, feels like a TBD story. I have the Lakers at 14, and I don't love anyone counting them out at this point because of the talent, but pretty unhappy 20 games for them when you think, man, I think I had them as a top 3 team. I had their over under, which was maybe 46.5, something like that. They've had some injuries already, but what's a little scary is that LeBron has been around this whole 20 games. So you would think like if you're getting a healthy LeBron for the first fourth of the season, you'd be a little better than 11-9. They look slow. They have trouble guarding wings. And this feels like an incomplete team. Of course, the trade stuff has already started with them, and they have the Rui contract. He got hurt. They have Russell. They have Christie, Hood-Shifino. They have their 29 first. And it's just, I'm monitoring the Dallas thing. I've been talking about this for months, that if that Dallas thing goes sideways at all, is there going to be a Mavs Lakers and Kyrie going to the Lakers? I don't think they would do the Zach LaVine move because I don't think that really helps them, especially their problems of defense. I'm sure they're in on whatever, if the Caruso sweepstakes ever happens. I'm sure they're all in on that if they could pull it off. But we'll see what their team looks like. It seems like the trades can start in mid-December, and this does not feel like a finished roster yet. Number 13, New Orleans. I don't love getting sucked back in by Zion, but I feel like it's happening. And he's not where he was a couple years ago when we were going nuts and Russillo was having a stroke every time there was a New Orleans game. He's not quite as explosive as he was a couple years ago, but he's still an absolute bitch to play. And you look at, they have a lineup with Valanciunas, Zion, Ingram, Daniels, and Herb Jones, which is plus 24.6 when those 5 guys play together. Didn't mention Hawkins. Trey Murphy's coming back. Alvarado just came back. Nance got hurt again. But this is a really, really talented, flexible, malleable team that has multiple guys who can score in any quarter. Even when their best 2 scorers are out, it still feels like they can get offense. I didn't mention McCollum, by the way. That's that. So they have 10 guys counting Nance and just scoring at all points of the game. There's never going to be a 6-minute stretch where they're not getting a good shot from somebody. And they're really hard to match up with the size. And then you look at the picks they have all their own first. They have the Lakers first, which is their choice in 24 or 25. They can swap picks with Milwaukee in 24 and 26. They have the Bucks pick in 27. They have a lot to make moves with. And yet I don't know what the move is because I kind of like the team. Poor CJ McCollum. It feels like yet again, he's probably going to be in trade rumors, but I don't even know if I would trade him. I like what they have. I want to see more of it. I want to see another 15-game sample size. All right, the next category is the possible in-season bumpers. We got 3 teams, 12 Indiana, 11 Sacramento, and number 10 Knicks. All of them are in the play-in tournament, in the quarterfinals at least next week, and are in situations where if they could put together a couple wins and get to the finals or even win the whole thing, this is one of the reasons they developed this in-season tournament. They were hoping that it would be a thing that the players care about. 100% true. They were hoping that for the coaches and for the teams, it would be a nice little litmus test for where you stand at a certain point in the season. I think for all three of these teams could absolutely win 1, 2, maybe not 3 games. The Knicks, I like the Knicks. I think they're really hard to play. Brunson has so much confidence now. They got Randall back. They have a really good bench. They have a bench they can be down 8, and their bench can come in and start flying around and making threes. And I just think they're playing the Bucks in the in-season. I think they're going to beat the Bucks. I'm just telling you now. I think they're going to beat the Bucks in that in-season game. But all 3 of these teams, I think the in-season is going to be a nice little fork in the road for them. Indiana had a tough loss tonight, but offensively, they're just a nightmare, the pace they play at. And if you're just talking about a 1-game playoff, really hard. Same thing for Sacramento. If it's the right matchup for them and Fox is flying around. So I think all three of those teams are worth watching next week from a big picture standpoint. Wanted to mention Brunson quickly. Brunson had 42 tonight. The Knicks are 8-0 against losing teams. So there's a chance they're the very good bad team, that they're just the team that's going to beat up all the other bad teams, but come up just short against the really good teams. The case for that not being the case is how good Brunson's been this year. And the 3-point shooting with him went up a level. I think he's 47, 48% for the season now. He moved his distance back. Like he's making 25 footers. He's a 25 points a game guy. He's an absolute bitch to match up with these different teams. And, not only is this a massive, massive, massive loss for Dallas, and if Luka ever ends up leaving there, it will be probably the first thing that gets mentioned. But if you're talking best guards in the league right now, and you have Curry and Booker and SGA as your first three, and I think that's set in stone. And then Halliburton, whether he's on the tier with those guys as the fourth guy or he's right underneath as the fourth guy, I think he's fourth. And I think Fox and Edwards are right there. And I'm going to say Jamal Murray just because of the title last year, how he plays with Jokic, how we've seen him come through in big games. I would have him next. And then I think you could make the case for Brunson in this 8th spot before Maxey and John Morant, whatever happens with him when he comes back. Donovan Mitchell, who I know has the stats, but over and over again, it just doesn't seem like he's making anybody better and elevating anything. And we now have a pretty big sample size of this. I'm not ruling it out. I'm just pointing out Brunson seems to have a better impact on his team. Dame Lillard, just a defensive zero. I mean, I don't been talking about this for 2 years. And then LaMelo would be the only other one. But I think you can make a case Brunson's in the top 8 now for guards, which is an insane climb for him. And just an incredibly impressive fourth quarter guy. So you look at where the Knicks are, they have all their own first. They have some protected picks from Dallas, Detroit, and Washington this year. They have a protected pick from Milwaukee in 25. They have moves to make, and it's another team where I'm not really totally sure what the move is. Like they could definitely improve the Mitchell Robinson spot, but his numbers are pretty good for them. So my guess is they're probably going to cruise along, see how far they can go this season. But if they win the in-season tournament, I'll be interested to see if they get a little more frisky around the trade deadline. All right, next group is the Orlando Magic by themselves in the young and hungry Assassins group. They are 13-5. They are third in defensive rating. They have a plus 6.2 net rating, which after 18 games is just insane. It's 2 moves. It's Kuminga over Franz when the Warriors did that in the 21 draft, which Orlando didn't have control over, right? They had to hope that, Golden State screwed the pickup. And it seems like Golden State screwed the pickup. So they end up with Franz. Then they have the number 1 pick the next year. And it's this 3-headed argument we had for months. Paolo versus Chet versus Jabari. I actually was a Jabari guy. And maybe long-term, I don't know if that's dead yet. The Chet piece would have been really interesting for this team, even though he missed all last year. Putting him on this team instead of Paolo, but you can't argue with how it played out. And they have these 2 guys that have proven that they can play together as the foundation of a team that actually has a defensive identity, which is you just would not have guessed a year ago. My international basketball theory is hit again. I don't know how many more times I have to tell you guys. International basketball matters. Franz and Paolo playing in the World Championships over the summer help both of those guys. And it always helps unless you're Dame Lillard. Speaking of Dame Lillard, next group, the veterans. I have Milwaukee at number 8. They're 13-6. Heading into tonight, they were 21st in defensive rating, and their net rating was plus 2.9. That's got to be worse. There's red flags all over the place with the defense, and I don't really totally know how they fixed it. They can still protect the rim, like you saw Giannis with the big block in regulation tonight, but the perimeter stuff, I don't know how they fix it. They don't have anything to trade. It's like, oh, cool, they could use Alex Caruso. Well, how are they going to get him? It's going to take 2 firsts to get Alex Caruso. They don't have any firsts. Offensively, it seems like they're a secret power. They're almost like, it's a little like the Eagles this year, where the Eagles can be losing in a game and then somehow put together a couple touchdowns late and all of a sudden they're winning. And you're like, how the hell are the Eagles winning this? Milwaukee's had a few of those, including at Chicago tonight, where they could be down 5, they could be down 7 with 3 minutes left. And all of a sudden Dame will hit a 3, Dame will set up somebody else and they can claw their way back. But this team, this is not the team I'm afraid of in the East as a Celtics fan. I'll just say that. And from a well-coached standpoint, really grim. Like even tonight against the Bulls, they're up 3. There's less than 5 seconds left. The Bulls take way too long to get into whatever shot they're going to do. And the Bucks don't foul and Caruso ends up getting a 3 right at the end of the game. There's some new coach stuff with Griffin that it takes a while. And especially when you go from a guy who won the finals to Griffin and some of the stuff they're doing, which a lot of people have written about. This is not the team I fear in the East. The team I fear in the East is Miami, who I have at number 7. Miami's only 11-8, but they've been missing some guys and they've had some injuries. Also, their first out of their first 17 games, 12 were on the road. But you just saw tonight against Indiana. This is the deepest Miami team I think we've had during the Butler run, and it's really an exercise in incredible team building because they let Strus go because he's about to make too much money. They replaced him with Duncan Robinson, who they already had. They somehow lit a fire under him. They just poured heat culture down his throat. And then Jaquez, they draft, I think he was 22nd. And the moment they drafted him, all of the college guys in my life who worked for the Ringer were all like, that's unbelievable. Oh my God. I was hoping Miami wouldn't get him. He's perfect for them. And not only is he perfect for them, I love him and I hate the Heat. And now I'm in this weird position where the Heat have multiple guys that I really like, including Jaquez. And it's there's nothing worse than when a team you don't like has guys you like. So I'll figure it out. I'll figure out a way to turn on him. But he is just so in my wheelhouse. Everything he does are just things I like. He's always in the right spots. He's additive at all times. He's a sneaky defender. He's a clutch shooter. He's got a great demeanor to him. Seems like his teammates love him. Just a great pick. So they let Vincent go, hoping that Lowry could handle the extra minutes. He's shooting like 45% from 3 this year. So he's in a contract year, but that worked. They took a flyer on Josh Richardson, who my dad liked when he was on the Celtics. And then he kind of bounced around the league a little bit, but comes back. He had 20 against Milwaukee this week. It seems like they've rejuvenated him as at least a rotation guy. They still have Lowry's expiring in Hero if they want to do some sort of trade. The team's good. And they have Butler and Bam, who are 2 of the best 20 guys in the league. Bam looks like he's headed for just a classic bad luck. I should be an all-NBA guy, but I'm not going to be an all-NBA guy because I'm in the same league as Jokic and Embiid and probably Giannis if he's eligible as a front court. But I forget how they do the all-NBA. No, he's not eligible. So Bam has a chance to at least be third team, but he's more impactful than being a third team all-NBA guy. Last team in this category for me is Phoenix at number 6. Just because of how Booker's playing. And I know he took a slight step back. He twisted his ankle last night, but Booker has the fact we wrote about it on the Ringer this week. The fact that he has figured out how to play point guard is just an incredible wrinkle for this season. So that him and Durant, the role guys have been a little better than we thought. Nurkic is going to get hurt at some point, and how they handle no Nurkic for a month or 2 months, however long it is. But for the most part, this team is as scary as advertised that those 2 guys are on the floor together. And then Beal, I don't know what they're going to get from him. That trade might be a bust. I'm not even sure it matters, but they have to be taken seriously. And I think the one thing that has surprised me about the West is I would have had Golden State. In my head, Golden State was above Phoenix because they were a little more reliable with the infrastructure. And, Draymond took a step back, Quay took a step back, and they never got what they thought they were getting from Kuminga. Chris Paul's already hurt, and it just seems like Phoenix has kind of grabbed that spot. All right, top 5, the sleeper, Oklahoma City. I've talked about them too many times, but they're 12-6 now. Are they going to make a trade? They have all their firsts. They have something like 18 first-round picks. They have great Clipper picks. They have a really good Houston pick in 26. Like, what are they going to do? They need one more big guy. Who's it going to be? Are they going to get, how aggressive are they going to get? And are they going to take this chance seriously? Because they have Shea, who's one of the 10 best guys in the league. Holmgren is probably going to win Rookie of the Year unless Jaquez continues to come on like a freight train. What are they going to do? Are they just going to be like, no, it's cool. We're just happy to have a 49-win team. You guys have a chance. Like, this is a conference right now that you'd probably take Minnesota after Denver as the second best bet to make the finals. OKC, do something. You never know with this stuff. You should know this from the Durant, Westbrook, Harden, Ibaka era. Never assume your window is going to last for 10 years. All right, the contenders. Number 4, Philadelphia. Not a lot to say about them other than, they lose Harden and Maxey comes right in and immediately becomes a top 30 guy for them. And Embiid, this is my favorite Embiid season yet. I love the way he's playing on both ends. The movement they have, the size they got from Covington and Batum. It's an absolute contender, and yet I'm still afraid of Miami a little bit more. Minnesota, number 3. We've talked about them a bunch on the podcast. The size is going to be their superpower. And then I have for the favorites, I have Boston 1B and I have Denver 1A. And I still have Denver. I know Murray's been out. I know they're 13-6. Like, they've lost a couple games, but I just think the Jokic piece of it, we talked, Termini on Tuesday Night's Pod said about how Brian Scalabrine said how the distance between Jokic and the next best guy in the league was the biggest distance we've had since LeBron in 2013, when it was like LeBron and then a drop off to basically Durant, Carmelo. Definitely the case with Jokic. He is, I think, the best offensive player of my lifetime, at least so far. And I just, the road goes through Denver for me. I'm not wavering. I'm not changing. I don't really care what seed they are in the playoffs. They're the number 1 team. Boston at number 2. Porzingis made it to Thanksgiving week, and then I had calf tightness. This is going to be the fear. It's going to be Porzingis and it's going to be Al Horford. What are those guys going to look like in April, May, and June? That's going to decide the fate of this team, and we have no answer for that. So I got Denver 1, I got Boston 2, Minnesota 3, and Philly 4. And I think that's the consensus for the most part in some order. The swing team, if you're doing power polls, is how high you have Miami and whether you have them over Milwaukee. Because I think most people would have Milwaukee over Miami. Miami is a better team. The irony of that, when they tried to trade for Dame all summer and they're probably in a better spot, pretty interesting. But I have Miami as the 3rd best East team and the number 1 team I'm afraid of. So that's it for the power poll, except we have the Adam Silver spot. If you remember that I end every power poll with an Adam Silver thumbs up or thumbs down. Last time I got a thumbs down. Huge thumbs up this time, because the in-season tournament was a huge success. It got people talking about basketball in November and early December, about the quality of play, us enjoying games, us wondering what was going to happen, and not just talking about load management and trades and being upset with guys. This is a huge win. Next week is going to be fantastic. It'll be interesting to see how much headline stuff it can steal from the NFL, especially going Tuesday head to head on Thursday and then Saturday. But I don't think this could have worked out any better. It's been an A++. So kudos to you, Adam Silver.